Assalamualaikum. Today we are starting chapter number 9, gas exchange and smoking. So let's start with the learning objectives. Objective 9.1 is about the gas exchange system. And the objective is to describe the gross structure of human gas exchange system. Then you're also supposed to observe and draw the plan diagrams of the structure of walls of the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli, indicating the distribution of cartilage, ciliated epithelium, goblet cells, smooth cells, squamous epithelium, and blood vessels. So definitely like this observation part, definitely you'll be doing there in the AS practicals, right? But I'll actually attach a few videos related to the plan diagrams here. Then you're going to describe the functions of cartilage, cilia, goblet cells, mucous glands, the smooth muscle and the elastic fibers, and recognize these cells and tissues in prepared slides. So again, we are not using the slides, but definitely we'll be talking about the functions of all these, right? And then describe the process of gas exchange between air and alveoli in the blood. And then our objective 9.2 is about smoking, right? Where you have to describe the effects of tar and the carcinogens it contains in tobacco smoke on the gas exchange system with reference to lung cancer and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is COPD, and describe in short the short-term effects of nicotine and carbon monoxide on the cardiovascular system. So let's move on to the topic then. All right then. When we talk about the gas exchange system, so there are certain adaptations that are present to increase the surface area, right? So first of them definitely is like for gas exchange to occur, the surfaces should be large enough, right, for this gas exchange to take place. So the first adaptation that should be there is large surface area, right? And secondly, the surface or the membrane through which this gas exchange is taking place should be thin, right? Because the thinner it is, it will facilitate a shorter diffusion pathway, right? Because if it's a thick membrane, it will take long for diffusion to take place, right? So these two adaptations have to be there in order for the gas exchange surface to work effectively. Say large surface area, and then it has to be thin. Now, if you look at a single cell organism, right, in this case, because there's no specialized respiratory system, right? So gases are absorbed and they're released by diffusion across their outer body membrane. Their cell surface membrane, basically, right? So it happens to the body surface. And again, because of the same and because of this process, like they need to have a large surface area, right? And since they are single cell organisms, so definitely you can see it's a single cell organism. So definitely the large surface area, the membrane would be thin and there would be a short diffusion pathway. Hence, they do not require a system for gases exchange. So in this topic we'll be talking about the human respiratory system. So see in this picture from your book, right? Here they have shown you the trachea, right? This tube here that you're looking at. And then you see the trachea divides into right bronchus and the left bronchus, right? So it starts with trachea, right? Then comes the bronchus. Okay, so a singular is bronchus, so you have this right bronchus and definitely left bronchus, and like the plural is known as bronchi, right? So we have trachea, then we have bronchi, right? After that, we have these terminal bronchioles. So let me zoom so you can actually see, right? So you can look at the trachea. You can look at the right and left bronchus. Here they have actually shown you the right part more. So see, this is the bronchus, and then you see it keeps on dividing, right, until it reaches this terminal bronchus. So this tube here that you're looking at, right? So look at this branch and see how like it is narrowing. To look at the lumen like width of the trachea, or the diameter rather, then you look at the diameter of the bronchi, and then you see the diameter of the lumen gets narrower and narrower as it keeps on branching. So this is the terminal bronchiole, right? And after the terminal bronchiole, so they have actually zoomed it here, this part here. So after the terminal bronchiole, we have the respiratory bronchiole. So see, terminal bronchiole then keeps on dividing further. So we have this respiratory bronchiole, right? Then it divides further into alveolar duct, right? And then comes the alveoli, right? So these are alveoli. Singular is alveolus. Okay? So one is known as alveolus. Okay? The plural is known as alveoli, right? So remember all the stages, or all the actually the sequence of how these are arranged, right? So it is always the trachea, first, so you need to know the sequence, right? So it's the trachea. Then we have the bronchi, right, which is definitely the right and the left bronchus. Then comes the terminal bronchi, right? Sorry, terminal bronchiole. Then comes your respiratory bronchiole. Then comes the alveolar duct. And finally comes the alveolus or alveoli, right? So this is how it starts from trachea all the way to alveoli, right? And from trachea, you see it keeps on dividing into branches. So the lumen gets narrower and narrower, right? Until it reaches the alveoli, which is the part actually where the gases exchange would take place, right? So by the time it reaches the alveoli, the alveolar wall is only one cell thick, right? So this is here actually they have shown you, okay, by zooming. So you look at the alveolus actually. So if you look at one here, this is alveolus, and each of them are surrounded by capillaries. So you can see a capillary network, right? And this is the part where gases exchange will take place, right? So this is the alveolar duct, this part here, right? And this is the alveolus, alveoli. Okay, a lot of them alveoli, and once if you look at the single one, that is an alveolus, right? All right then. So we just talked about the human respiratory system, right? It consists of trachea. Then comes the right and left bronchi. Then we have this terminal bronchiole. Then comes the respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and then comes the alveoli. So talking about the trachea, trachea begins from the larynx. Larynx is the voice box, right? So here you can see, here is the larynx, right? And then here is this is the trachea. So trachea begins from the larynx and then it extends up to the level of fifth thoracic vertebra, right? So this is where it extends till the fifth thoracic vertebra, right? Then it bifurcates to form two bronchi. Bifurcates mean it divides to form two bronchi, which then enters the thoracic cavity just in front of the esophagus. So remember, esophagus is behind the trachea, right? So trachea starts from the larynx, right? So we have this trachea, and behind the trachea is the esophagus, right? So the wall is strengthened by an incomplete C-shaped cartilage rings. So this tracheal wall, if you look at the front wall, these rings here, these are the cartilage rings and these are incomplete. So you're looking at the ring structure in the front, but at the back, these rings are not complete. So these are incomplete C-shaped rings, which are around 15 to 20 in number. And these rings will not allow the tracheal walls to collapse and allows the air to flow in without obstruction. Then apart from the cartilages, the wall is also made up of smooth muscles and connective tissue, right? So this whole trachea has this incomplete C-shaped cartilage rings. It has a smooth muscles as well as connective tissues, right? And the cavity, the tracheal cavity is actually lined by ciliated epithelium. And this is an adaptation because any dust particles or pathogens, right? They can actually they can be swept away by this ciliated epithelium. So it actually sort of acts as a broom, right? So there will be sweeping motion of the ciliated epithelium and it will try to move those out through the, as they get trapped in the mucus. So ciliated epithelium actually tries to move them out of the system then, right? So this is how it is all arranged. So let me show you the diagram as well. So here what they've shown you, this is a cross section here that they've shown you the tracheal cartilage. So this part is the trachea and behind that, this is the esophagus, right? So they've just shown you the one ring. So the blue ring that you're looking at, this is the C-shaped cartilage, right? This is the C-shaped cartilage, right? So it's an incomplete ring. Okay? Behind that, this is the trachealis muscle. This muscle here, right, which actually is between this esophagus and the trachea. This is known as trachealis. This is the muscle, right? Then this is the lumen here. This is the lumen, and this lumen contains the ciliated epithelial cells. As we breathe in, like air moves in through the airways, so we have ciliated epithelia here, right? They will actually keep any dust particles to go inside the lungs. right? Okay, now this diagram here, I'll actually show you here. So in the trachea and as well as bronchi, right, mucus is produced, right? So this mucus is produced by the goblet cells of the ciliated epithelium. So if you look at the epithelium here, let me use a laser pointer, right? So here they've shown you the structure of the same trachea, right? But they have actually seen that it's sort of, okay, they have actually, this is the inner layer, okay, this is the lumen, okay? So you're looking at from inside out, okay? This is the lumen, so this is the innermost layer, okay? And this is the cartilage then, okay? So we are looking from inside out. So this layer, you can look at the ciliated epithelium. You can look at the cilia as well, right? So this is the ciliated epithelium, right? And then you can also see the goblet cells. So these yellow cells that you're looking at, these are the goblet cells, right? So this is the epithelial lining, the gray one, okay? And then we have goblet cells here. So goblet cells are actually named as such because their shape is like the goblet, like this cup here. Okay, you must have seen. Okay, the cups that we actually use for the drinks, so which has a stem as well. Okay, so these goblet cells have a shape like this. Okay, so these are the goblet cells. This is the cilia. Okay, this is the epithelium, right? Then you can look at the mucosal lining. Okay, and then you can look at the glands. So these glands actually, they also secrete the mucus as well as these goblet cells. Okay, goblet cells also secrete the mucus. So in the trachea and the bronchi, the mucus is produced by the goblet cells of the ciliated epithelium, right? The upper part of each goblet cell is swollen with mucin drops which have been secreted by the cell. So this is the upper part, right? So it looks like swollen parts. So you can see at this part, right? So upper part seems swollen with mucin droplets which have been secreted by the cells. Mucus is a slimy solution of mucin, which is composed of glycoprotein with many carbohydrate chains that make them sticky and able to trap the inhaled particles. The rest of the goblet cell, which contains the nucleus, is quite slender, just like the stem of the goblet. So this part here, this is the part which would contain the nucleus. So mucus is also made by the mucus glands beneath the epithelium, right? So mucus, there are two sources of mucus. They're secreted by the goblet cells, right? And they're also secreted by the glands as well. These glands are also secreting the mucus. Okay? Then you can look at, so this layer is a mucosa, this is submucosa, then this is the cartilage ring that you're looking at, and the outermost layer is known as adventitia, right? And then here you can see the trachealis mucosa. So you can pause it, you can go through it, right? So remember, this mucus is produced by the goblet cells of the ciliated epithelial cells in the trachea and bronchi. All right then, talking about the bronchi and the bronchioles now. Now at the base of the trachea, see, so this is the trachea, right? And then you can see the trachea is actually dividing into, this is the left bronchus, this is the right bronchus, right? So it divides at the base, the trachea divides into two bronchi, which then subdivide and branch extensively, forming a bronchial tree in each lung. So you can see, right, these bronchi, they keep on branching. So they seem like they're making a bronchial tree. Each bronchus then divides many times to form a smaller bronchioles, right? So trachea, then bronchi. Bronchi divide into bronchioles, which are even smaller. Terminal bronchioles divide to form even narrower respiratory bronchioles that supply the alveoli with the air. Bronchioles are surrounded by smooth muscle, which can contract or relax to adjust the diameter of these tiny airways, right? So remember the smooth muscle, okay, it is surrounding the bronchioles. Okay, so you can see this is a bronchiole, right? So the red part here that you're looking at, these are the smooth muscles. So bronchioles are surrounded by smooth muscles which can contract or relax, right? So this is the structure of bronchi and bronchioles. Okay then, talking about the lungs now. So the lungs are in the thoracic cavity. So you see that this is the larynx, then the trachea. It divides into bronchi. The bronchi divide further into bronchioles, right? Into terminal bronchioles and terminal bronchioles into respiratory bronchioles, right? So if you see like these are then opening here in the lungs. Okay, the lungs are there in the thoracic cavity, right? And these are surrounded by the pleural membranes. Now these pleural membranes contain pleural fluid. They contain pleural fluid, And these pleural membranes, right, they keep the lungs enclosed in an airtight space. So this space contains a small quantity of fluid, as I just said, it's known as pleural fluid, and it allows friction-free movement as the lungs are ventilated by the movement of the diaphragm and the ribs. As you inhale, definitely the air fills in, so lung would move. Likewise, it would also move as you are exhaling, right? So it allows a friction-free movement of the lungs, right? Because the ribs are also moving as well as the diaphragm is moving, right? So this pleural fluid allows the movement, friction-free movement, right? So this much about the lungs. Okay, here actually I need you to see this is a healthy lung tissue, right? And if you compare it with this one, this is a lung tissue that has been infected or inflamed. So have a look here. So here the green layer that you're looking at, this is the mucus lining, right? And right now we just discussed this mucus is secreted by the goblet cells. You can see the white ones that I've shown here, right? So they are secreted by the goblet cells, right? As well as they're secreted by the mucus glands as well. So you can see there are mucus glands here. That's the two sources are. Okay? So then you can see, so the goblet cells, then this is the cilia epithelium. Okay? And here you can see the cartilage, right? But if you look at this one, this is an infected layer. So see, look at the amount of mucus now, right? Because if there is some pathogen there, right? So your white blood cells will also there'll be a lot of white blood cells that would try to destroy the pathogen. So you can see a lot of like the macrophages, there are eosinophils, right? So neutrophils, so you can see a large number of cells, right? And they are trying to trap the pathogen. Okay, so goblet cells will even secrete more mucus because these have to be actually removed from the body, right? And then you can see the number of glands also increases. So whenever there's a reaction, there's an infection, there is this actually response of the body to get rid of the infection. So you can see the number of glands is increased. See, these were the glands initially, and look at the numbers now, right? So again, so this is a lung tissue when it gets infected, right? And this is a healthy lung tissue. All right, then. Talking about the alveoli now. So when we talk about alveoli, it is this area where the gas exchange will take place, right? So in humans, the gas exchange takes place in the alveoli, and the walls of the alveoli, they contain elastic fibers, right? And these elastic fibers stretch and recoil. So these are the two terms that you need to use when you're talking about the alveoli, right? So the walls, right, they would stretch during inspiration and recoil during expiration to help force out the air. So please remember, when we use the terms contract and relax, we are using them only for the muscles. Please remember, do not use the term contract and relax for alveoli. They stretch during inspiration, okay, because they have the elastic fibers. These are not muscles, these are elastic fibers. So when during inspiration, they stretch, and during expiration, they recoil, just like an elastic. Okay, they would recoil during expiration. So please make sure you use these terms. Stretch and recoil. So alveoli have extremely thin walls. So as we were discussing, the walls are only one cell thick, right? And this is why this will actually allow the surface area to increase, right? And gas exchange will take place. So the extremely thin walls, each consisting of a single layer of squamous epithelial cells. So these are the names of the cells. Okay, and they're no more than 0.5 micrometer thick. Okay, they're so thin. Pressed closely against the alveolar walls are the blood capillaries, right? So here actually if you look at, so they have shown you the internal structure. So this is one alveolus, right? So its wall consists of a single layer of a squamous epithelial cell. So there's a single layer there. And pressed against it is the blood capillary. And blood capillary, if you remember, is always also one cell thing. It is also single cell thing. So the alveolus itself is a single cell membrane. It contains the squamous epithelial cells. Actually, its wall is made up of those single cells, right? And similarly, the walls of capillaries are also made of single cell. Then oxygen and carbon dioxide molecules diffuse quickly between the air and the blood because the distance is very small. So since there is only one cell membrane, right? So that oxygen or carbon dioxide have to cross. So that's the reason it makes the distance very, very small because it does not have to travel large distances. All right, then. One more thing that you should actually notice here is this. See, the blue part here actually, okay, is what is called the pulmonary artery. Now remember, in the alveoli, the blood is coming in from the right ventricle, right, through the pulmonary artery, right? क्योंकि deoxygenated blood जो है, it gets from the superior and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. Then the right atrium pumps it into the right ventricle, and the right ventricle pumps this blood through the pulmonary artery into the lungs for oxygenation. And remember, pulmonary artery is the only artery that contains deoxygenated blood, right? So blood would come in from the right ventricle, right? Gases exchange will take place here, right? Oxygen will diffuse in, and then the oxygenated blood will diffuse out of the lungs through the pulmonary veins, right? And this pulmonary vein would go into the left atrium. From the left atrium, it would go into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it would pump to the body through the aorta, right? So remember, and pulmonary vein is the only vein that carries oxygenated blood, right? All right then. Furthermore, what you need to see is, please look at the lumen as well. Arteries have a narrow lumen, veins have a wider lumen. So let's say you have this black and white diagram and you're not able to identify, so make sure you look at the lumens. Arteries have a narrow lumen, right? Because they can contract, right? Veins have a wide lumen. So this is also something that you can use for differentiation, right? So remember, it's a pulmonary artery which comes in, right? Gases exchange takes place and the oxygenated blood goes out through the pulmonary vein, right? This is another view. So you can look at the connective tissue. Then you can look at the alveolar sacs. Okay, this is the alveolar duct. Then you can look at the mucous gland as well, mucosal lining. So mucous gland would secrete the mucus, but this is the lumen. Okay, and then you can look at the pulmonary artery here, the blue one, and the pulmonary vein. This is the whole capillary bed that surrounds the alveoli. Right, so this is the site of a gases exchange. Yeah, so gases exchange takes place here. So alveolar duct and alveoli, both of these are involved. Okay, this is another diagram. So inhale here. Okay, as the air is coming in, it would inflate the alveolus, right? It is filled with air. Okay, but then look at the pulmonary arteriole. It is bringing deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle, right? The capillary bed, gas exchange takes place here. The oxygen from the air diffuses into the blood and it goes out through the pulmonary vein. So you should know to follow the arrow here, how the blood enters, right? Gas exchange takes place and how it is leaving. Right? So this capillary network covers the surface of alveolus to facilitate oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange. All right, then this diagram here actually, I have actually kept it here to discuss with you because there's one MCQ that comes that how many layers on membranes does oxygen have to cross to become oxyhemoglobin? This MCQ comes sometimes, right? So how many layers oxygen has to cross, right, to become oxyhemoglobin? And oxyhemoglobin is the compound that is made when oxygen combines with hemoglobin in the RBCs, right? So if you look at this diagram now, so see, this is the wall of the alveolus. So they have shown you a single alveolus. This is the wall of the alveolus, and we said that the wall of the alveolus consists of single layer of squamous epithelial cells. So this is one layer of squamous epithelial cells. This is another layer of squamous epithelial cells, right? Okay, and then you look at the capillaries. Okay, capillary walls are also one cell thick. Okay, so this is definitely, this is wall of the capillary here, as well as wall of the capillary here. Okay, and then comes the RBC. So if you count this, so oxygen has to cover, like, cross this membrane, then this membrane, then this membrane here, this membrane here, and then it would diffuse, definitely there's this plasma membrane of the red blood cell as well. So it has to, if you count this, so it has to cross 5 membranes in order to become oxyhemoglobin, right? So 1 membrane, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one, because now it is there in the RBC as oxyhemoglobin. Okay? So MCQ aa jata hai, so you should know. Okay, this is how actually we count the layers. Okay, then this table is from your book, and what I need you to see here is this. that again, look at the list, starting from trachea, then bronchus, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and alveoli, and then look at the number. So trachea is only one, okay? Then it divides into two bronchi, right and left. But then look at the terminal bronchiole. Look at how the number has increased, 48,000. There were two bronchi, okay? But now after many subdivisions, it has actually increased to 48,000 bronchioles, terminal bronchioles. Then look at the respiratory bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles will even divide more, and you have around 300,000 respiratory bronchioles, right? Then look at the alveolar ducts, 9 into 10 to the power 6, alveoli 3 into 10 to the power 9. So look at how the number keeps on increasing. But at the same time, if you look at the diameter here, look at the trend, it keeps on decreasing. See, 1.8 centimeter is 18 millimeters. 1.2 centimeter is 12 millimeters, right? Then terminal bronchiole is 1 millimeter. Respiratory bronchiole is 0.5 millimeter. Alveolar duct even smaller, 400 micrometer. Alveoli 250 micrometer. So look at the size, how it is decreasing. See, so the number is increasing, okay? And look at the lumen, the diameter is decreasing. So you have a very large surface area now, okay? And the surfaces are becoming thinner and thinner so that alveoli have only single cell layers there. Those are squamous epithelial cells, okay? So this is how, like the large surface area and they are thin, okay? So this is what will actually help in gases exchange, okay? Okay, now look at this as well. Cartilage is found only in the trachea and the bronchus. Okay? Then look at the goblet cells. Because mucus is secreted by goblet cells, it is only found in the trachea and the bronchus. Okay? So cartilage as well as the goblet cells, only found in trachea and bronchus. Then smooth muscle, trachea, bronchus, and terminal bronchioles. Then cilia, trachea, bronchus, terminal bronchioles. Okay? Very few in the respiratory bronchioles. Okay? Because cilia, you remember the function is this sweeping movement. The site of gas exchange is only these two, alveolar duct and alveoli. So remember, gas exchange not only takes place in alveoli, but also in the alveolar duct, right? So look at the number, right? And look at the size, right? So gases exchange takes place here. And again, if you look at this diagram, here, see? So all covered by capillaries. So this is the alveolar, take it. And then here you can see this is the alveolar duct, take it. And then this alveolar duct, excuse me, divides into these. You have these alveoli. Okay, so these are the sites for gases exchange. Both of these, alveolar duct, okay, as well as these alveolar sacs. Okay, so make sure you have a close look at this table from your book. Okay, now let's talk about gas exchange in alveoli. So for gas exchange to take place in the alveoli, and rapidly as well, a steep concentration gradient must be maintained. And when we say steep concentration gradient, it is that, see, oxygen is, or definitely air is actually coming in as we are inhaling. Okay, so air containing oxygen and carbon dioxide both. And if you remember, the atmospheric oxygen, the air actually contains 21% oxygen and it contains 0.04% carbon dioxide, right? This is the air that you're inhaling, right? So let me write that here. This is inhaled air. And the air that is being exhaled out, right? It contains 16% oxygen and 4% carbon dioxide. So look at the values, okay, and then see, for gases exchange to take place rapidly, a steep concentration gradient must be maintained. So just think about it. If the atmospheric air that you're inhaling contains 21% oxygen, here is 21% oxygen, right? And you can again see this blood is coming from the pulmonary artery, right? Deoxygenated blood coming from the pulmonary artery as it is pumped by the right ventricle. And then you can see this blood is deoxygenated. So you can see it through the purple color. Take it. So it contains 16% oxygen. Okay? Because eventually this is the one that will be exhaled out, right? So there's 16% oxygen here. There's 21% oxygen in the inhaled air. So look at the difference. So because of this difference now, air will move out from the alveoli, or oxygen actually rather, will move out from the alveoli into the capillary. Okay? Because this is 21% here and 16% here. Okay, so there's a concentration gradient. All right then. And if you look at carbon dioxide here in this deoxygenated blood is 4%, right? And the one which is coming in is 0.04%. So look at the concentration gradient here. What will happen because of that? Now carbon dioxide will move in the alveoli from the capillary. Okay? Because it's 4% here in this deoxygenated blood, right? And 0.04% in the inhaled air. Okay? So because of this concentration gradient, there will be rapid exchange of gases. And this is done by breathing and the movement of the blood both. So remember, as you're breathing in, okay, so the air that is coming in contains 21% oxygen and 0.04% carbon dioxide. Okay, and the blood that is coming in through the capillaries, it has 16% oxygen and 4% carbon dioxide, right? So this is done by breathing and the movement of blood both. Breathing brings the supplies of fresh air to the lungs with a relatively high oxygen concentration. So we just saw that 21%, and a relatively low carbon dioxide concentration, which is 0.04%. Blood is brought to the lungs with a lower concentration of oxygen, which is 16%, and a higher concentration of carbon dioxide, which is 4%, right? Than the air in the alveoli. Oxygen therefore diffuses down its concentration gradient from the air in the alveoli to the blood, and carbon dioxide diffuses down its concentration gradient in the opposite direction. The blood, you know, it is constantly flowing through and out of the lungs. So as the oxygenated blood leaves, more deoxygenated blood enters to maintain the concentration gradient with each new breath, right? Because you know, okay, the blood will come in from the pulmonary artery, but then after getting oxygenated, it will move out as oxygenated blood through the pulmonary vein. Okay? Heart will keep on pumping. Okay? And as you're breathing in, okay, so this concentration gradient will remain there. Right? So this is the whole process of gases exchange in the alveoli. So you can pause, you can go through the points, try to understand the diagram. Okay? And then we'll move on to the next part. All right then. Now we'll talk about what happens during lung ventilation. Right? So there are two processes involved, inspiration and expiration. So this inspiration is also known as inhalation, right? And expiration is also known as exhalation. Okay, so both mean the same thing. Inhalation, exhalation. Okay, then in inspiration, you're breathing in, air is coming in. So what will happen now? The external intercostal muscles, which are here, right? The external intercostal muscles contract, right? And they move the rib cage upwards and outwards. So you can see as you're inhaling, okay, you're breathing in, air is coming in the lungs, okay? So external intercostal muscles contract, okay? And what happens because of that? The rib cage moves upwards, okay, and moves outwards, okay? At the same time, diaphragm, this sheet here, diaphragm is a muscle, it would also contract. So remember, both there are two muscles which are involved, and both of them are contracting. External intercostal muscles, right, here, as well as the diaphragm. Both are contracting, right? So as diaphragm contracts, it flattens. Okay, so this would flatten. Okay, as the air is coming in the lungs, okay, the volume of the lung would increase because of that, because air is coming in. And as the volume is increasing, the pressure would decrease. So look at the size now. Okay, the lungs are filled with blood. Sorry, filled with air. Sorry for that. Okay, so they are filled with air. Okay, and this increases the length of the thoracic cavity. Okay, so overall what is happening? The volume of the lungs is increasing. Okay, so this is the whole space which has air now. So volume of the lungs increases, and because of that, the pressure decreases. The pressure of the lungs decreases below the atmospheric pressure. Up now there is a concentration gradient, right? The pressure, atmospheric pressure in the air is more, and the pressure in the lungs is less. So because of that, air would rush in to inflate the lungs. I hope it makes sense. Because I'm repeating again, during inhalation, what is happening? The external intercostal muscles are contracting as well as the diaphragm. Both of these muscles are contracting. Diaphragm contracts and it flattens. Okay, it flattens the external intercostal muscles. So what happens to the rib cage? It moves upwards and outwards. Okay, the volume of the lungs increases. This downward arrow shows you the diaphragm is like flattening. It contracts. Okay, so volume here increases. Because of the increased volume, the pressure decreases. As the pressure in the lungs is decreasing now, okay, and there is more pressure in the atmospheric air, okay, so air would rush in to inflate the lungs. So this is what happens in inspiration or inhalation. And if you understand this procedure or this process actually, it will be very easy for you to simply just reverse the whole process, and that will be exhalation. Okay, so what is happening in exhalation now? See, both the muscles now, external intercostal muscle as the diaphragm, both of them are relaxing. Okay, they were contracting here, both of them are relaxing. So look at the diaphragm has now again become the dome shaped. Okay, what is happening to the volume of the lungs? The volume now decreases. As the volume decreases, because the space here is decreasing now, the pressure would increase. Exactly opposite of what was happening here. Here the volume was increasing, so the pressure was decreasing. Here the volume is decreasing, pressure is increasing. Okay, and then look at the rib cage. Okay, it moves downwards and inwards. Okay, downwards and inwards. This is what happens. So look at the size now. The volume decrease हो गया, the pressure increase हो गया. Since there is increased pressure here, okay, as compared to the atmospheric air here, so air will be rushed out of the lungs. Okay, air would leave the lungs. Okay, so this is what happens in expiration or exhalation. Okay, so again, you may pause, try to understand what is happening in the diagram. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay then, so we are done with objective 9.1. This is objective 9.2 about smoking. So like in 2021 syllabus, smoking is there, but in 2022 syllabus, they have removed this from the topic then. So smoking, if like actually the World Health Organization considers smoking to be a disease. It's addiction basically. So looking at the trend in the 19th century, tobacco was smoked almost exclusively by men. Okay, and what they use pipes, they use cigars. Okay, and that would actually involve little inhalation. But then the manufacture of cigarettes began, smoking cigarettes became fashionable. Then European men, like during the First World War, they started doing it. In the 1940s, women started smoking in large numbers too. So like the number of smokers in many countries such as UK and US has now decreased sharply in recent decades. But at the same time, in South Asian countries, okay, or rather Asian countries, there has been a huge rise in cigarette smoking, and it is like mostly in countries like China and Pakistan. It is estimated in Pakistan around 40% of men are regular smokers and 8% of women are there who smoke as well. So smoking of flavored tobacco called shisha has also become fashionable among young people, right? And most of them think like it's since they're using this water pipe, it is safer. Like it's not quite the case. Okay, it is as harmful as a cigarette. All right then. So when we talk about smoking, we are talking about tobacco smoke. So tobacco smoke consists of mainstream smoke. Mainstream smoke is the one or which is coming from the filter, okay, the mouth end, the part of the cigarette, okay, that the smoker is using. So it is the mouth end. Okay, so that is not the mainstream smoke. And the side stream smoke is this part. Side stream smoke is actually where this is the burning tip. Okay, so this is actually what is causing more toxic ingredients, releasing toxic ingredients in the environment. Okay, so this actually constitutes around 85%. The person, even if he's the smoker, if he's in like inhaling, तो वो around 15% होता है. ठीक है, ये जो side stream है, ये 85% बनाता है. And many of the toxic ingredients are actually in higher concentration here in the side stream. ठीक है, main stream में इतने ज़्यादा नहीं होते, यहाँ पे ज़्यादा होते हैं. ठीक है, so 85% the smoke that is released is in the side stream. ठीक है, 15% mainstream में. And this is actually what constitutes passive smoking. ठीक है, breathing in someone else's cigarette smoke. This is what causes passive smoking. All right then. So the main components of cigarette smoke. Okay, the main components, there are three main components: tar, carbon monoxide, and nicotine. Tar also contains carcinogens. Carcinogens are cancer-causing compounds. Okay, so these are the main components of cigarette smoke. Now tar and these carcinogens, they actually affect the gas exchange system. Okay, so if you talk about the gas exchange system, they'll be mostly affecting the bronchi and the alveoli. Okay, so this is a part of the lungs that they will be damaging. Carbon monoxide and nicotine, both of these are generally causing damage to the cardiovascular system. Okay, so they would actually go into the blood. Okay, so they would cause damage to the arteries. Okay, so this is like the damages that they do. So tar and carcinogens, they damage the gases exchange system. Carbon monoxide and nicotine damage the cardiovascular system. So tar is actually a mixture of compounds. Okay, it's a mixture of compounds, and what it does, it settles on the lining of the airways. Okay, it settles there. Okay, and since it settles there as a foreign matter, okay, so it will actually cause this or stimulate a series of changes that may lead to obstructive lung diseases and lung cancer. Because if it's there as a foreign like body definitely there, okay, so it will cause the release of mucus, okay, and it will eventually cause obstruction of the lumen or obstruction of the lining of the airways, okay, and eventually it can cause lung cancer as well, okay, because it contains carcinogens. Okay, so it's a mixture of compounds that settles in the lining of the airways in the lungs and stimulates a series of changes that may lead to obstructive lung diseases and lung cancer. Carcinogens are cancer-causing compounds, and they cause mutations in the genes that control the cell division, right? So they will generally affect the epithelial cell. They will cause a mutation in the DNA, right? And actually, eventually, these mutations will result in uncontrolled cell division, leading to formation of tumors. Okay, then. So the two diseases that we have to talk about that actually, as it said, this tar actually causes obstructive diseases. So those diseases are known as chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Okay, so again, these diseases do not actually happen like overnight. Okay, it takes years for these diseases to develop. So it's known as chronic. Okay, chronic means that it happens over the period of years. बहुत सालों से एक चीज हो रही है. So chronic obstructive, obstruction definitely, mucus वहाँ पे trap हो रहा है. ठीक है. Pulmonary means related to the lungs diseases. So short form we call it as a COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. So there are two diseases that we'll be talking about. One is chronic bronchitis, right? And the other one that we'll talk about is emphysema. So these are the two COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases that we'll talk about: emphysema and chronic bronchitis. All right, the culprit in both the cases is tar, right? As we just discussed, tar actually and the carcinogen, tar actually damages the gas exchange system, right? So chronic bronchitis is definitely affecting the bronchi, okay? And emphysema is causing destruction there in the alveoli. So tar in the cigarette smoke stimulates the goblet cells, and if you remember, goblet cells secrete mucus, and the mucus cells, and mucus glands. Mucus glands are also secreting mucus. So both of these are secreting mucus. Tar in cigarette smoke stimulates both of these cells, goblet cells as well as the mucus glands, to enlarge. So as the size of these cells enlarge, they secrete more mucus. This is what tar does, right? It also inhibits the cleaning action of the ciliated epithelium. Ciliated epithelium, you see, it has this sweeping movement. Okay? It has this sweeping movement. So it will try to sweep away the dirt, right? So it actually inhibits this cleaning action of the ciliated epithelium that lines the airways, right? What also it also destroys many cilia. Okay? It inhibits the function as well as it destroys many cilia and weakens the sweeping action of those that remain. So those that remaining, they also have a very weak sweeping action now. They're not functioning effectively. As a result, mucus accumulates because now the goblet cells and the mucus glands, they are enlarged, they are secreting a lot of mucus, but at the same time, the ciliated cells are not working properly. So mucus would start to accumulate there in the bronchioles, right? And the smallest of the bronchioles, the one which are narrow enough, they will become obstructed now. As the mucus is not moving, or best only, even if it is moving very, very slowly because you have very small number of cilia which are working, the dirt, bacteria and viruses would collect and they block the bronchioles, right? This stimulates a smoker's cough because again, as there is obstruction, okay, there will be chest congestion that the person would try to cough. He would try to cough it out. Okay, so it's known as smoker's cough because generally this disease is found mainly in smokers. Okay, so person would try to like remove this mucus of the airway. So he will try to attempt coughing. Okay, this will actually cause more damage. Okay, the epithelia will also damage. With time, the damaged epithelia are then replaced by the scar tissue, right? And the smooth muscles surrounding the bronchus and bronchi become thicker, right? So it's not able to contract and relax ठीक है, as like effectively as it would be if it was like normally. ठीक है, so smooth muscle surrounding the bronchioles and the bronchi become thicker. Because of all this, further infections can occur, such as pneumonia. They easily develop in the accumulated mucus. And when there is infection in the lungs, the lining becomes inflamed, okay? And this further narrows the airways, right? As they become infected, they become inflamed. So now the more of the white blood cells will start to come in, macrophages will start to come in, right? So this would further narrow down the airways. And this damage and obstruction of the airways is known as chronic bronchitis, right? So the cigarette smoke, what is it doing? The tar in the cigarette smoke, basically, it is causing the goblet cells and the mucus cells to enlarge. They start to secrete more mucus. But at the same time, the tar also inhibits the ciliated epithelium to work. It damages them as well, right? Or those which are working, okay, they are not working effectively. So because of that, we have a lot of mucus, okay, which accumulates there in the bronchioles. And the smallest of the bronchioles will become blocked. ठीक है, bacteria, viruses, dirt would start to accumulate. They would cause obstruction. ठीक है, this can further lead to the development of pneumonia. ठीक है, and pneumonia definitely is a bacterial infection. Lining becomes more inflamed. This further blocks the airways or narrows them down. This damage and obstruction of the airways is known as chronic bronchitis. ठीक है, so if you look at the picture here, so here you could look at the bronchiole, and here you can see the red part that they've shown is inflammation, okay, because of the infection, and this yellow that you see, this is a mucus, okay, so this is actually narrowing the lumen, okay, and again if you look at this, this is the normal bronchi, okay, so look at the lumen, look at the smooth muscles, okay, but now look at the inflamed part. So the number of cells also increase, so you look at this lining, okay, look at it has become swollen. Okay, there's inflammation, and look at the like huge amount of mucus is actually like obstructing the pathway. So this was the lumen initially, and now look at this, it's blocked. Okay, it narrows down the airway, and look at the smooth muscle, it becomes thick. Okay, and here if you look at the cells, so look at the goblet cells, they have become enlarged. Okay, look at the cilia, they are damaged. So the mucus cells, mucus glands and the goblet cells, they will secrete more mucus, okay, and it would get actually trapped there. Cilia would not be able to remove it. So this is what happens in chronic bronchitis. So have a close look at the diagram, try to understand it. Coming to emphysema. So emphysema again caused by tar, but what is happening in this case, just remember it like this. You know, phagocytes, okay? If there's an infection, phagocytes would try to come in, okay, and definitely remove the pathogen. In this case, what is happening, the pathogen is actually present here in the alveoli, okay? So कोई pathogen आया, okay, and it actually is trapped here in the alveoli. A body definitely identifies, the immune system identifies if there's a pathogen, a foreign body, it has to be removed. But those phagocytes or white blood cells, they have to travel through the blood capillaries. Okay, so this is the alveoli, and the alveoli are actually surrounded by the blood capillaries. So those phagocytes have to actually go across the capillary and then enter the alveoli. Okay, so now what is happening? Let's see. So the inflammation of the constantly infected lungs causes the phagocytes to leave the blood and line the airways. So you have these blood capillaries here. Okay, so phagocytes are actually moving in. Okay, but what would happen if there is a pathogen here? Phagocytes will have to leave the blood capillary, okay, and they have to destroy the pathogen. Okay, but what happens? They cannot go there directly. They have to leave the capillaries. Okay, they leave the capillaries, and what else do? They release a protein digesting enzyme known as elastase. Okay, they cannot directly reach the alveoli. So this alveolar wall, if you remember, it is made up of elastic fibers. Okay, so this phagocyte then release a protein digesting enzyme which is known as elastase. This elastase destroys the elastin in the walls of the alveoli. Okay, so this it destroys the elastin because it has to reach the alveoli. So it has to destroy this wall first, right? To make a pathway for the phagocyte to reach the surface and remove the bacteria. Okay, so phagocyte's job is to remove the bacteria. but how it will reach the bacteria, it has to leave the capillary. Okay? It has to destroy the wall, the elastin wall of the alveoli to reach the pathogen. Okay? So it will do so by releasing an enzyme which is known as elastase. This is a protein digestive enzyme. So elastin is basically responsible for the recoil of the alveoli when we breathe out. Remember we discussed that alveoli stretch and recoil. Okay? As we inhale, they would stretch. As we exhale or expire, they would recoil. Okay? So these are the two actually features. They stretch and recoil. So what is happening? Elastin is actually responsible for the recoil of the alveoli when we breathe out. Okay? If this elastin is damaged, so think about it. Alveoli is not able to recoil that much. You are inhaling in, okay? Air is coming in, alveolus will stretch. Stretch तो हो जाएंगे. But now as you are expiring, okay, the air that is going out, the alveolus is not able to recoil as much. So air pressure वहाँ पे बढ़ना शुरू हो जाएगा. ठीक है? So with the small quantities of elastin in the alveolar walls, because now it has been damaged, the alveoli do not stretch and recoil when breathing in and out. ठीक है? अब क्योंकि elastin जब डैमेज हो रहा है तो उसकी स्ट्रेचिंग पावर भी खत्म हो रही है. ठीक है? और उसकी रिकॉइल पावर भी डैमेज हो रही है. ठीक है? बट ज्यादा इफेक्ट रिकॉइलिंग पर आ रहा है. What would happen because of that? It would trap air in the alveoli, which would often burst because now the pressure is increasing. Air अंदर आए जा रही है, ठीक है? But then it is not able to recoil that much. ठीक है? वो वापस अपनी पोजीशन पे जा नहीं रहा. Elastin fiber काम नहीं कर रहे. ठीक है? So air will, this will keep on filling up with air. Eventually they will burst. ठीक है? अब as they burst, definitely they are not functional anymore. Large spaces appear where the alveoli have burst, and this reduces the surface area for the gas exchange. The number of capillaries also decreases, definitely because they supply the alveoli. So if the alveolus is not there, so capillaries, they will also not be there. So less oxygen is absorbed into the blood. This condition is known as emphysema. Okay? So you can look at this collapsed alveoli, right? So have a look at this diagram. This is from your book. So this is the normal version. This is what happens during inspiration. These are the elastin fibers. Okay, and they stretch as the air is coming in. Okay, they would, you see the alveolus is stretching. Okay, so this is actually they are helping it to stretch. So these elastin fibers, they are helping in stretching and recoiling. So look at the size. During expiration, it recoils. So again, these are the same elastin. Okay, they are helping in recoiling. So this is the normal process: inspiration, expiration in a normal healthy lung. But look at what happens in emphysema. The elastase, which is being released by the phagocytes, because they have to go and kill the bacteria which is present inside the alveolus. Okay, so they damage the elastin fibers first. If the elastin fibers are damaged, okay, they would not be able to stretch that much as well. Okay, air is coming in, but recoiling. Look at the recoiling. They would not be able to recoil. Look at the size difference. This is how the normal alveoli, alveolus as it recoils. So see how the size. Look at the size, and look at the size now. It is not able to recoil as such. Okay. So what will happen if you're breathing in, air will keep on coming in, the pressure would increase, eventually the alveolus will burst. This is what happens in emphysema. But remember, this doesn't happen like overnight. It takes many years for this to happen. Okay, so this is the reason we call it as a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay, these are all chronic diseases: chronic bronchitis, emphysema. Okay, so alveoli are not deflating very much in emphysema. So these are the two COPD. Okay, that we have to talk about: chronic bronchitis and emphysema. Okay, अच्छा, the third is lung cancer. Okay, so COPD में हमने diseases में दो पढ़ी हैं. Then talking about the lung cancer, which is caused by the carcinogen. Okay, so remember we talked about tar and carcinogens. They basically affect the gases exchange system. So tar in the tobacco, okay, since it contains several carcinogens, what do these carcinogens do? They directly react with, or what they do, they would break down the products, but they would react with DNA in the epithelial cells. Okay, so if you remember, during mitotic cell cycle, the DNA replicates. Okay, the DNA replicates. Okay, so at that time, if mutation occurs because of carcinogen, so what will happen? Mutation would lead to uncontrolled mitotic cell cycle, and these cells will keep on growing and growing. Okay, so it actually reacts directly with DNA and epithelial cells, and they produce mutations there as well. Okay, which are first in a series of changes that lead to the development of mass of cells. So mutations हो गई हैं gene के level में, then a number of cells they keep on dividing, ठीक है, and they form a tumor. As the cancer develops, ठीक है, it doesn't stay localized. It spreads through the bronchial epithelium. So first the bronchial epithelium keep on dividing, it forms a tumor. Then it spreads through the bronchial epithelium and it enters the lymphatic tissues in the lungs. ठीक है? It enters the lymphatic tissue. And through the lymph, it would travel to different places, different parts of the body. ठीक है? And then they would form secondary tumors to whichever organ they reach. So they form secondary tumors there. ठीक है? This is what is known as metastasis. ठीक है? The process is known as metastasis. ठीक है? So tumor like this is known as a malignant tumor. ठीक है? Because there will be uncontrolled growth now. Again, lung cancers take around 20 to 30 years to develop, and like symptoms, ठीक है, बहुत बाद में पता चलते हैं, but most of the growth of the tumor occurs before there are any symptoms. Symptoms बहुत late इसके develop होते हैं, ठीक है. So it takes around like chain smokers को 20 to 30 years लगते हैं to develop this lung cancer, ठीक है. So here they have shown you a healthy human lung, ठीक है, and here they have shown you a tobacco smoker's lung. So look at the difference. Okay, so this much about the lung cancer. So again, have a reading, then try to understand it. All right, then. Next, we have to talk about the short-term effects of nicotine and carbon monoxide on cardiovascular system. So tobacco smoke contains these three things: tar, along with carcinogens, nicotine, and carbon monoxide. So tar, carcinogens, they were affecting the gas exchange system. Nicotine and carbon monoxide are affecting the cardiovascular system. So let's see how is nicotine actually affecting the cardiovascular system. So nicotine is actually a drug in the tobacco. Okay? So what happens as a person is smoking, nicotine would be absorbed by the blood readily. And if it is absorbed in the blood, it can travel easily to different parts of the body, and it can go to the brain as well within a few seconds. Okay? And what it does, it stimulates the nervous system to reduce the diameter of the arterioles. Okay? It causes vasoconstriction. What else it does, it causes the adrenal glands to release hormone called adrenaline. Adrenaline is actually the fight and flight, is secreted at the present for fight and flight response. Okay? So adrenaline is secreted by the adrenal gland. So what is it doing? It is stimulating the nervous system to cause vasoconstriction. Okay? And the hormone adrenaline will be released. Okay? What also it does, it also increases the risk of blood clotting. So these are all the effects that nicotine can have. Increases the risk of blood clotting. Okay? And it is highly addictive. It influences the reward centers in the brain. Okay? So reward centers in the brain, they get activated because of nicotine. So it's a drug. Okay? So these are all the effects that it is having. Travel in the blood, reaches the brain, okay? Activates or influences the reward systems, reward centers in the brain, causes vasoconstriction, causes the release of adrenaline, and also increases the risk of blood clotting. Okay? So it is affecting the cardiovascular system. Right? Carbon monoxide, on the other hand, it diffuses across the walls of the alveoli, because again it's a gas, okay, as we are inhaling it, okay, so it will diffuse across the wall of the alveoli, and what it does, it actually diffuses into the red blood cells and combines with the hemoglobin to form carboxyhemoglobin. Okay? Normally when we are inhaling, oxygen will diffuse out of the alveoli and will actually combine with the hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. What does carbon monoxide do? It would not let oxygen to diffuse in the red blood cell, okay? And it itself will actually diffuse more easily and forms a stable compound which is carboxyhemoglobin. Okay? So hemoglobin does not become fully oxygenated because of this. Because now in the hemoglobin ke saath carbon monoxide jaake attach hua hai. Oxygen is not attached there. So the hemoglobin is not fully oxygenated. Then carbon monoxide may also damage the lining of the arteries. Okay? So it is damaging the lining of the arteries. Okay? At the same time, nicotine is causing clotting. Okay? So both of these combined, okay, they are causing this cardiovascular disease. Okay? So this much about the carbon monoxide. Okay? So this here is a table where you can actually just see the lung diseases. Okay? The causes and the symptoms. So chronic bronchitis, the causes are cigarette smoke mostly. breathing in air pollution, fumes or dust over a long period of time. Again, chronic simply means it's happening over a long period of time. Symptoms क्या है? Coughing, difficulty in breathing. Smoker's cough, basically. Emphysema, again tobacco smoke, marijuana smoke, then air pollution, chemical fumes and dust, shortness of breath, right? Then lung cancer, cigarette smoke, tobacco, then air pollution, radon, asbestos, okay? Diesel exhaust, secondhand smoke. And in this case, the symptoms are coughing up blood or rust-colored sputum, hoarseness, shortness of breath, chest pain, cough that gets worse, loss of appetite and weight loss. Okay? And again, these diseases take many years to develop. Right? Other than that, there are other diseases, lung diseases like asthma. Okay? It's mostly caused by allergens like dust mites, pollen, mold spores, pet dander, coughing, wheezing, chest tightness, shortness of breath. Okay? And likewise, pulmonary tuberculosis, it is caused by bacteria, which is known as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And the symptoms of coughing up blood, fatigue, fever, okay, because it's a bacterial infection, so definitely fever, chest pain, night sweats, coughing that lasts for 3 or more weeks, right? But the ones which are mostly caused by the cigarette smoke are chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and lung cancer. That's about it. So we have come to the end of this chapter.
In humans, the main organs responsible for respiration are present in the thoracic cavity. In the thorax region, the rib cage and a dome-shaped fibrous tissue known as the diaphragm are observed. Present within the rib cage are the pleural membranes, which enclose the lungs. The right lung is divided into 3 lobes: the right superior, right middle, and the right inferior lobe. The left lung is smaller and has only 2 lobes, the left superior and the left inferior lobe. Both the lungs are associated externally with small tubular bronchi which unite and extend into the trachea. The trachea has incomplete C-shaped rings of cartilage which prevent the tracheal wall from collapsing. The trachea leads into the pharynx, which is connected to the nostrils. As we breathe in air, the oxygen molecules enter the nostrils and travel downwards through the pharynx and trachea to finally reach the bronchi. From each bronchus, oxygen travels into the lungs. Within the lungs, the bronchus divides repeatedly to form bronchioles. Oxygen travels through these bronchioles and reaches the alveoli, each of which is surrounded by a network of capillaries. A section of one alveolus shows the presence of numerous alveolar chambers with pores. Blood containing RBCs is seen flowing through the capillaries. The oxygen molecules from the alveolus diffuse into the capillary and then get absorbed by the bluish-purple RBCs. This causes oxygenation of the RBCs and a transition in their color from bluish-purple to red is observed. The blood moving into the alveolus contains RBCs and carbon dioxide molecules. These molecules are released into the alveolus. The carbon dioxide collects in the alveolar chamber. And then from the alveolus, it travels through the bronchioles into the bronchus, which finally reaches the trachea and is breathed out through the nostrils. So the process of breathing in air rich in oxygen is called inhalation. After the contraction of muscular diaphragm, the lungs expand and the air rushes in, resulting in the inflation of alveoli. During exhalation, the diaphragm moves up and the lungs contract. Thus, the alveoli deflate, causing the air to be forced out. This exhaled air is rich in carbon dioxide. This process of inhalation and exhalation is known as respiration, which is approximately 20 times per minute.
So this is the cross section of the trachea. Okay, and you'll be looking at how to draw the plan diagram. So just have a look. Okay, so simply just sort of tracing it. Okay, you're not drawing any cells. Just draw what you're looking at. You see cells, so double membrane. You can just simply draw whatever you're looking at. Okay, only the outlines. Cross section of trachea. So you should be like you're not going to draw any individual cells. Okay, use a soft pencil, right? Relative position and the thickening of the tissue to be shown with lines. Draw what you see, not what you know. No shading. Okay, no shading at all. Okay, and it should be reasonable size. So make sure you follow these rules. Okay, so this was a short video about how to draw a plan diagram of cross section of a trachea. So this one is a plan diagram of cross section of a bronchus. So have a look. See, just the outline. Again, this is the lining. So look at the double layer. this is a plan diagram of cross section of bronchus. Okay, so it's simply just sort of a tracing. Okay, just the outlines. You're not drawing any cells, right? Simply use a soft pencil and draw whatever you see. So this the cross section of bronchiole. So see, there's no cartilage. Walls are reinforced only with smooth muscle. So look at how the plan diagram is being drawn. This is the ciliated epithelium. Okay, the double lining.